It was approximately 12:15 when I entered the Johnson County Community Health Clinic. I was there for an appointment that I had set up weeks ago, just a routine checkup. It wasn't a new place for me. I'd been there a couple of times before. However, the place had an oddly nostalgic feel to it, as if it were a location from my childhood, or something. I could never pinpoint exactly what the feeling was, or where it came from. As I walked in, an overwhelming feeling of deja vu swept over me. The hum of the flickering fluorescent lights, the white tiled flooring, the muted beige paint that covered the walls. I noticed there was a TV mounted in the corner, a smaller flat screen that was playing a short PowerPoint slideshow on a constant loop of ads and events that were being held by the clinic. I passed the empty waiting area, a small area of the main room with magazines, child playthings, and blue cushioned chairs, and then I approached the woman at the front desk. She was sitting in her bluish-grey office chair, looking at the spreadsheet on the same Windows XP desktop that they have had since 2008. There was a sign-in sheet on the counter in front of me. "I have an appointment with Dr. Pebbins?" I asked. "What time?" 12:30, I replied. She began typing something onto her keyboard. "Ah, yes. Gary Johnston?" she responded. "Mm-hmm. Yes, I'll tell the doctor. Please fill this out." She handed me a clipboard which held a simple fill-out form. I walked back into the waiting area, then took a seat and began filling out the form. I was about halfway done with filling in my information when I slumped back into my chair. I hadn't gotten much sleep since the prior night, and I was exhausted. As I slumped back, I noticed something very peculiar. My head never hit the wall. In fact, it felt like it went in. I got up, quite frightened, and looked at the wall. Nothing. Not a single hole or dent had been made in the wall by my head, so I reached to touch the wall, and my fingers went right through it. I recoiled in shock. What the hell was that? I thought, as I reached to touch the wall again, only to find my fingers had clipped through once more. Then suddenly, I lost my balance, tripped, and fell directly through the wall. I fell face first onto some dirty tan carpeting. Upon getting back up, I realised that I was in a completely different room. Well, not really a room per se, more so a set of rooms, all of which were connected by openings. The walls were covered in gross tan patterned wallpaper. There was also an overwhelming stench of moist carpet. I turned back around and tried to put my hand back through the wall, and it just wouldn't go through. "Okay, what the hell?" I muttered. I looked back into the room. There were no windows, no doors, nothing on the walls other than that disgusting wallpaper, of course. It was completely empty, aside from a singular plastic blue school chair. At this point, the only thing that was going through my mind was fear, and the repeating thought of, "I need to leave," on loop in my head. I started running through the rooms, desperately trying to find an exit, but to no avail. There was no exit. Was this my permanent location until I died? No, there had to be a way out. I wasn't just going to be left here, right? Eventually, somebody would know that I was gone, but nobody did. Then in the distance I heard footsteps, but not those of a human's, at least, not a normal human. Alongside the footsteps was a gargling snarl, like that of an angry animal. I began to run. I ran as fast as I could from whatever the hell was approaching me. I didn't want anything to do with it. I ran for what seemed like forever, but I was always back in the same room that I started in. At least, it looked the same room, not that I could tell them apart. So I sat down, defeated. A feeling of dread filled my body as I began crying. I was going to die here. I'm still there. I haven't left. I've accepted my fate. In fact, I can actually hear footsteps. I wonder who that is. And that, my docs, was the Backrooms. I don't know who this one was written by. All that I know is that I have received tons of requests for this story. I asked people if they wanted to see it and they said yes, so here it is. My opinions on this story? Well, to be fair, it kind of reminds me of, I believe it's the strangest security tape I've ever seen, where somebody gets stuck in a time loop. But this one was really interesting. It kind of gave me a mix of that, plus Abandoned by Disney, with the creature following them at the end. Overall though, I'm kind of neutral on it. It didn't really stand out too much for me, but obviously I know the reason why the Backrooms is so popular is because of the memes and the games and other things that have been made because of it. But overall the story was just kind of in my opinion. It didn't do anything wrong, it didn't blow me out of the water either. It was just a pretty standard story. I enjoyed it though, it was okay enough. But overall though, I think it's just alright. So if I had to give this story a rating out of 10, not taking into account the other memes and other games, I'm probably going to have to give the story just a flat 5 out of 10 across the board. It seems like a jack of all trades, master of none. It's got horror there, it's got creepiness, and it's definitely got eerie atmosphere, plus a little bit of tensity with that creature. But overall, I don't really feel like most things in this story have been expanded on. The games and other things on the other hand may have expanded on this, but like I say, I'm not counting the games nor the memes into this. But I hope you enjoy this narration. This is one of the more requested ones, so I hope you do. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe, hit the bell so you're always up to date with my latest videos, and help me get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2022. I'll see you all later. Take care, my dorks.